Today I've got a complete in-season stretching routine for you so your hips are feeling nice and loose, both on the ice and the morning after a game. And it's gonna take you 10 minutes or less. Welcome back to Goalie Training Pro TV, and today we are going to talk about not really so much stretching as you might think of it, but a little bit more mobility training. And the difference is stretching is really what passive range of motion we have at a joint. So, how far can I bend my thumb towards my wrist with some assistance. Mobility is what range of motion can I control? What range of motion do I own? What is my usable range of motion, which is really the key ingredient for any goalie. So just to make it really clear, this is my flexibility. What I can hold, so if I try to hold my thumb in this position using the muscles of my forearm, I try to hold, and then I let go. See how it springs back? This is my mobility. This is the range of motion that I actually own and can control. And the best part about this routine is, the best part is going to make your hips feel great throughout the season. The second best thing is that I've kept it really precise, really quick, so that anybody can get it done. It's going to take you 10 minutes or less to do it. So let's get to work. Keep in mind, this is an in-season goalie mobility program. So our emphasis is taking a little more of a restorative approach to our adductors, our groins, our hips. We don't want to irritate it. We don't want to add wear and tear. We're not trying to force a bunch of range of motion on it. We're trying to maintain what we have, maybe gradually build some range of motion, definitely keep working on building control, but not adding wear and tear to the hip joint, because you're getting plenty of that on the ice. So the other thing, keeping this short, so keep in mind, I know you're all busy. I know that time is a barrier, so I've purposely kept it short. The goalies in my programs like Game Winning Goalie Formula, Turning Pro Coaching Program, their mobility sessions last a little longer, more like in the 20 to 30 minute range, but I want to make it simple for you to do something and see dramatic results on the ice right away. So that's why we're keeping it nice and short. We are going to start with inline traction, and this is a purple super band. It would be probably the inch to inch and a half super band. We want something that's got a pretty good amount of pull on it. Let me show you exactly how to hook this up so it won't go flipping off your foot. You're going to put your heel inside the super band, so it's sort of cradled like that at your heel, and then you're simply going to crisscross that strap over your foot so it's really locked in there. It's not going to go anywhere when you slide back and get some good tension on that band. And then from here it's pretty easy because you just slide back and love life. You're going to try to relax that joint. I actually turn my body a little bit so that this leg is in, or this hip is in a little bit of abduction. So here I would be straight line. I actually turn my body a little bit just to kind of make, that's probably about a 15 or 20 degree angle. I feel it's a little better traction or distraction on the joint. And I'm going to try to relax my hip joint, my muscles. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just going to hang out here for a minute on each side, 60 seconds on each side. So what I'm trying to do with that exercise is just do a distraction, create a little space in the joint. Our hip is a ball and socket joint, and it's a pretty good fit, but there is still some ability for it to slide around, for that ball to slide around a bit in the socket. So we're just going to give it some traction and try to help it get a little more centered in the joint, because that's the optimal position. Sometimes we can get jammed toward the front, jammed a little toward the back, and it can limit our mobility. From the traction, we're going to do a little self-myofascial release. We're going to start on the upper glute. So not the part of the glutes that we always sit on and that we always kind of work on when we do foam roll or lacrosse ball. We're going to get this upper portion. And in order to do that, you've seen me do this before, but you have to kind of hang out back on your elbow a little bit. And we're going to get all the way from outside near the hip bone all the way along that top border where your glutes kind of join with your pelvis, right up toward your bum crack. We're going to spend 30 seconds on each side. After getting the glutes, we're going to flip over. We're going to get our hip flexors, and we're really just going to go in the front of your hip. You're going to hunt around. If you find like a trigger point or a tender spot, you can hang out on that for a little bit and see if it kind of melts away and releases, and then move on to find your next spot. Again, you hear me say it every time we do lacrosse ball exercises. Take your time. You're trying to sort of scour that muscle, find those trigger points, work on that tissue quality like a massage. You're not trying to ride a mechanical bull or something. How it looks when I see it at so many camps. So if I find a spot that's tender, I'm going to hang out on it. I'm going to try to stay off my bony prominences, so staying off my ASIS, that bony bump in the front of your hip joint or the front of your pelvis. I'm going to spend 30 seconds on each side for that too. Next, you're going to move on to hip flexor with your foot on the wall. When I was putting together this workout, I was really trying to ask myself, yeah, what's the minimum dose we can do to give some really good improvement on the ice? And so this one kind of surprised me a little bit too, because it's such a basic stretch, and it is a static stretch. And don't be confused, because we talk about the benefits of mobility training and FRC and PRI and Aldoa, it doesn't mean that static stretching now is bad. It's just another tool, and it's knowing when to use it. So I have a nice AirX pad cushioning my knee, because otherwise it's going to be really uncomfortable. I'm going to have my back foot on the wall, my front foot out in front of me, and then I'm going to come up from this position, keeping a nice neutral back position. What I don't want to do is hyperextend my back. So a good neutral back position until I just start to feel the stretch. Probably you'll feel it more in your thigh, in your quad, not quite so much specifically in your hip flexor. This is a stretch for a hip flexor that's called the rectus femoris, which is a quadricep muscle that crosses both your hip and your knee. So it has two functions. It can flex your hip and extend your knee. So we just want to get this to feel the stretch there, and we're going to hold it there. Some of you, you're going to feel that stretch when you're still way down here, and that's okay. If you keep going up, what you're going to do is just hyperextend your lumbar spine, and now really I'm stretching my abs is what I'm doing, and I don't really want to do that. So keep those abs a little bit tight, come up until you just feel a stretch in the front of your thigh. If you want to feel more stretch in the front of your thigh, squeeze your bum cheeks together, and then you'll feel like, oh yeah, now I feel it. You're going to do that for 30 seconds on each side. Our hip flexors get pretty tight. We sit a lot of our day. We're in our crouch when we're on the ice. So let's give it a chance to open those up. If you want to add a little element to it, I really like adding a reach and a little side bend, because now we're getting some of our abdominals in on the game. And then you can even add in nice breathing. So breathing in through your nose for 4 seconds and breathing out through your mouth for 6 seconds. And that way you can work a little bit of breathing in as well. 30 seconds on each side. The next thing you're going to work in is a little pelvis on femur rotation. So I think of my femur, my thigh bone, as staying stationary. And then I'm going to just rotate my pelvis. So I think of pointing my belly button. If I had a flashlight coming right out of my belly button, I'm pointing it that way. And now I'm shining that flashlight this way. I'm trying to keep my kneecap pointing straight ahead. That femur has to stay stable to rotate, because, and it's sort of a funny motion. You'll find you have a little bit of trouble balancing. It feels a little herky-jerky. It's not smooth. But if you think about a lot of what we do when we're on the ice, when we rotate, we open up, that's pelvis on femur rotation. When we're in our butterfly and we rotate, we lead with our head and our hands, and then our pelvis comes on. That's pelvis on femur rotation. So we really want to learn how to use our hip in all its planes of motion, in all the different ways it works. A lot of our normal training is a femur on pelvis movement. So we're just flipping the script a little bit. You're going to do 4 each way, And just about that pace, so about 3 seconds each way with each leg. And then you're back on the turf for a little hip opener sequence. So when we do this sequence, we're going to start kind of in like a butterfly, but you don't have to be like super, super wide in your butterfly. Really, we're just in like a tall kneeling position. But then we're going to open a hip. So I'm trying to keep my pelvis fairly straight. It's going to come around a little bit because I run out of room, but I don't want to just twist my body. I want to try to stabilize here, open up this hip. As I reach that maximum opening, now I'm going to glide sort of laterally, diagonally back, trying to feel a nice stretch here. Not trying to sit down, trying to stay tall. Feel a stretch here, feel a little stretch here. And then I'll come back together. Now I'm going to try to stabilize again. Open, open, open until I can't go any further. Then I'll bring the rest of my body with. Get that oblique stretch here. And this one you might not feel, oh, I don't really feel a stretch there. I feel it somewhere else. There's a sort of a compound range of motion going on here. So you're going to feel it where you're the most limited. I'll tell you where I don't want you to feel it. I don't want you to feel it here in the front of this joint, in the closing side of the joint. That tells me something is getting pinched, and we don't really want that. But if you feel it anywhere on the opening side of the joint, so opening side here or opening side here, that's totally fine. You're going to do 4 to each side with nice control. When you get to that end range, hang out there for about 3 seconds. Now, before we go any further, I want to point out that this is not a pre-game warm-up. This is a specific mobility routine that you do, like you go to the gym and do your strength training or you do your speed training. Well, this is your mobility training. So it's not set up to be a pre-skate warm-up. That's something different. And I've actually made a video giving you a step-by-step pre-skate warm-up, so you can check that out here if that's what you're looking for. I want to know how many of you have a specific mobility program that you follow, a structured mobility program. That means you can tell me, I do this for this long, then I do that for that long, and then I do this, and this is what I'm working on when I do them. Do you have that, or do you just kind of stretch and like hang out and do, sort of do it by feel? I also want to know how many days a week do you do that mobility program? So do you consistently do it 3 days a week, 4, 5, 6, 7? Tell me what your routine is, if you have one. You know what to do. Drop a comment. You're going to go into your half groin stretch, but what we're going to do is add a little thoracic spine rotation to it. You also get pretty stiff in your thoracic spine. So hand goes to my ear. I'm going to go elbow to elbow, and then I'm rotating up and away. And when I get up here, I'm going to breathe in through my nose. As big a breath as I can take. And then as I come back down, I'll let that breath out through my mouth. Rotate up, big breath in through my nose. Back down, and you should still be in a good position where you're feeling a decent amount of stretch here on your adductor. You're going to do 4 of those to each side. So when I switch sides, I'll switch hands. From there, you'll just flip to your belly, and you would put your forehead down on your hand. So just fold your hands one on top of the other. Rest your forehead down. I'm going to keep my head up so that you can hear what I'm saying and it comes through on the microphone and it isn't muffled. But I have my knees bent to 90 degrees. And I'm going to, so see when I sit up like this, how hyperextended I am? That's why I want you to lie flat. Or you can even put a little cushion under your hips to get you in a more neutral position. But from here, I'm going to try to keep my knees touching. I'm going to pull my feet apart. And I'm actively going to pull for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax again. Now, I'm not pulling as hard as I can. I'm just creating some tension there. So, I'm probably pulling with 60% of my force. I'll come apart again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax. So it's like I'm trying to get the outsides of my ankle bones to touch the floor. And this is an active stretch. So I'm actively stretching into hip internal rotation, which is what we need for our butterfly. But by contracting the muscles to try to get a little further, I'm also building some end range strength there. So I'm going to do 6 like that, pushing for 5 seconds each. And for the last drill of this mini mobility routine, I'm going to get in my standing splits. But I'm about 6 or 8 inches out from the wall, and I'm going to do a little hip hinge. So I'm going to get nice and wide here, try to keep my neutral back position, and I'm going to hinge back till my bum touches the wall, and then come forward again. That wasn't too challenging, so I'm going to move a little bit further out from the wall. Hopefully I don't tip over backwards. That's a little bit better. So I'm holding that adducted position in my hips, but then I'm learning to use the muscles that cross my hips and use a stable torso to move through different ranges when I'm in this lengthened position. And I'm just following about a 3-0-3-0 tempo. And I'm going to do 6 like that. Now, when you're starting a new exercise you haven't really done before, when you're in a stretch position, always start closer to the wall and without quite as much stretch. And then gradually work your way out there. Don't get in like a full splits and then start jamming around. You're going to get in trouble that way. So just start easy and then experiment. Find the right range for you. Now I'm going to answer the question that I know someone's going to ask. Is that all you need to do? Is that all you have to do? Is there more you could do? Could you do 90 pails and rails? Could you do more foam rolling? The answer is yes. There's a cajillion things that you could do. And yes, you definitely could do more. I already said in the programs that I designed for game-winning goalie formula goalies or turning pro goalies, we do a more in-depth mobility routine, but it also gets to a point where more is just more. So we do spend in the in-season 20 to 30 minutes most days of the week, really 6 days out of 7, doing it, mobility routine. Do we spend 3 hours a day working on mobility? No. If you're spending 2-3 hours a day working on mobility, you either just really like mobility or something's going on. There's some sort of dysfunction that you're trying to fix through mobility and you're just not getting there. Or you just don't have a focused program. So you're taking what I call a shotgun approach. You're like, well, I'm going to do a little bit of this and I'm going to do some of that. And then just in case I'll do more of this, that's when it's just more is more and you don't really know exactly what you're doing. So you just kind of do a lot of everything in hopes that some of those things turn out to be the right thing. You can definitely go with this program on rinse and repeat. You need to do it at least 4 times a week to really see improvements. But it'll be fine for the next 4 weeks. You're going to see good improvements over 4 weeks. Then the improvements are going to tail off. It's just like our off-ice strength training. We don't do the same routine month after month after month. We change it up. We periodize it. We change the emphasis so that we continually get adaptation. Your mobility training is exactly the same. So if that's what you need, that ongoing progression, that ongoing improvement and development, then it might be worthwhile looking at my group training programs where every month there's a new mobility program, strength program, in the off-season speed, stamina, everything you need. But so that you're continually making improvements so that you don't get stuck at those plateaus, because that's super frustrating. So you can check out, there's a link in the description on how we can work together. If you're at that level where it's like, yeah, I don't have time to hang out in a plateau. I need to be continually making gains. Last words of advice, do not force your stretches. That is not going to get you to the promised land. It's probably going to get you an appointment with the physiotherapist, what it's going to get you. So be gentle with your stretches. Go to the point where, yeah, I feel a gentle stretch. Great. Hold it there. Over time, that point, that threshold is going to move and you'll increase your range of motion. What we're trying to do is remodel tissue. Tell tissue, hey, I need you to be more like this or more like that. And that takes time. The body doesn't just, change our tissue overnight. So consistently give your body that message. Hey, this is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to do. And it will improve. Consistency is the key, not really effort or how hard you try to push it. Mobility takes time. So be patient. And now is the time. I know you've been waiting. Now is the time to hit the like button. Thank you so much. I super appreciate it when you do that. It helps other motivated goalies like you find this content and win more games with fewer injuries as well. So thanks. Thanks for paying it forward to the goalie community. I will catch you next week. And next week, I actually have a complete in-season strength workout for you. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you like getting jacked, but if you like stopping more pucks, if you like winning more games with fewer injuries, I'll see you next Wednesday and we'll go over a nice in-season strength workout that will give you gains but not burn you out or leave you crushed. See you next week.